Need to get done. If you have an RFP, send it to me. We're getting near the end of the year. Let me help you get the best rates, best concessions. My services are fast, free, and honest. Send me your RFP. Let's get it done. That's me. I'm Mark DALLMAN. As I said, I was on the hotel side for 20 years. I started working with third-party HPN Global about 11 years ago. And one of the things, I started getting into this business, and people are like, well, what do you do? And I said, well, you know, I kind of help meeting planners do hotel contracting. I help find hotel availability, do the negotiation, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, you're kind of like a meeting planner's best friend. I'm like, yes, I am. That's a great idea. So I got my own website, meetingplannersbestfriend.com. As I said, 30 years either working in hotels or selling hotels. My expertise obviously is the hotel city site selection, the contract negotiation side of things. And I always say the fast, free, and honest hotel consultation. So again, I'm just a very honest guy because I've been doing this forever. But you know, I worked at the front desk. I did the night audit. I drove the van. I worked at the comp bar in Embassy Suites. I cleaned rooms in Detroit, Michigan. I checked in people in Bloomington, Minnesota. I booked group rooms in Monrovia, California, all over the country. So done a little bit of everything. And then obviously I have a bunch of association clients here in the DC area. I probably work with anywhere from 15 to 20 planners here in this market per se. And I book over 100 hotel contracts a year.
Kilberg, CEO of HPN Global, here for Mark DALLMAN's third annual Dirty Little Secret. Fantastic fun event that he throws every year. Mark's one of our top associates. He's been with us, I think it's 10 years, and been in our President's Club, the longest running consecutive President's Club winner, 7 years in a row. So Mark's one of our top associates, does a fantastic job for his clients.
Hi, everybody. Okay, it's Mark DALLMAN here, Meeting Planner's Best Friend. Just some preview videos from my hotel contract training class that I did in Washington, D.C. Obviously, some great words from my CEO, Bill Kilberg, and I like to call it my rock star video from IMEX in Vegas. So, hey, I hope everybody's doing well. Thanks for joining me on my 15th Facebook Live call. Today, I think the funny thing is that I was actually supposed to be in Washington, D.C. Doing a presentation actually on this topic on how to negotiate fair hotel contracts because I'm actually a professional speaker also and speak directly on this topic to 30, 40 planners every year. So I thought it would be just, I guess, great practice or a great review for everyone and how things have changed and how negotiations have changed, how the concessions that you should be asking for have changed, how the clauses that you should be having in your contract should change, and obviously the competition. So, but first off, as always, I want to thank our first line responders. I want to thank all of our hospital workers, all the people that are working so hard trying to get us a vaccine and trying to get us out of this mess that we are all still in. So we're under 100 days from election too, of course. I mean, why wouldn't in 2020 we needs to be an election year too? So just add that to the pile of things that we're dealing with right now. So, but thank you so much for joining me today. Like I said, negotiating fair hotel contracts in a COVID world is really what we're going to focus on. And I'd really love to also get your feedback on things. So when I'm talking about concessions and clauses and things like that, if you have questions or comments or suggestions, please type them in the comments section of the Facebook Live event here, and we'll bring them up on the screen and answer your questions directly. So whether you're a hotelier or whether you're a meeting planner, these are great clauses and great information to know, because one thing that I've learned, and again, I've either been selling hotels or working in hotels my whole life, is that nobody really gets training on hotel contract negotiation. I didn't when I was in hotel sales. I didn't when I was a planner. I know there's a lot of people still that it's just trial by fire. So the more classes they can go to, the more information they can get, the more webinars they can watch. It kind of helps everybody in this kind of situation. But with all the changes that we've seen, I think this is a great time to really take a step back and start looking at future contracts and setting yourself up for success as you start to negotiate some of these future deals. So let's get started. So state of the industry. Well, sports started, so that was exciting. Major League Baseball started this past weekend, so that was a great thing. I'm a big Twins fan, so it was great to watch some baseball. But now they've got some COVID cases and having to cancel some games. But, Major League Soccer is back. NBA will be back soon. The NFL is still planning on coming back. So that makes the world seem a little more normal. On the industry side of things, it's all about masks. That's all you've heard all week long. And I think the biggest thing that happened this past week is that hotels are now mandating masks when you're inside the hotel. So all the major chains came out, the Hyatts, the Hiltons, the Marriotts, and said, hey, if you're going to be in the hotel, you got to wear a mask, which is a great thing. So it's great to see that. The president actually has started focusing more on the mask situation also, which has been a good thing, I think, for everyone. So, and trying not to politicize this thing, can everybody just wear your damn mask, get over it, and then let's just move forward. So yeah, so that's kind of the state of the industry anyway. But anyway, let's get into the 3 C's of negotiating fair hotel contracts right now. So the first one we want to start with is concessions. So concessions are very important. And I think, as we've talked about many times on my Facebook Live event here, we're living in a new world. It's not 2019 anymore. We went through record hotel occupancy, record hotel rates, probably the last 6-7 years in a row. And now we go from that to one of the worst hotel recessions we've ever seen in our lifetime. So obviously with that change, and not that we wanted it to happen this way, but planners now have a lot more pull and have a lot more negotiating power when asking for concessions. So let's jump into concessions right now. And like I said, if you have certain concessions that you ask for or that you think are important, or if you have questions regarding any of these things that we go over, please type them in the comment section and we'll review them as they pop up here. So the first thing is my 1 per 20 rule. And a lot of people say, well, Mark, how many suites should I ask for? How many suite upgrades? How many staff rooms should I ask for? And a lot of times I tell people I go through the 1 per 20 rule. Okay, so if you're going to contract 100 rooms on peak, you should be getting 5 suite upgrades. You should be asking for 5 staff rooms. You should be asking for 5 comp suites. Okay, 1 per 20 rule. So whenever you're looking at your room block, a portion of that room block based on the size of it, you should be asking for suite upgrades, comp suites, and staff rooms. Okay, and the other thing that's very important to ask with those is that you're getting a comp VIP amenity with those. Okay, so it's not just the suite upgrade, you get the suite upgrade plus the amenity. Okay, so those are very important things to ask for and things to make sure that you have in your concession, toolbox per se. So the 1 per 20 rule, very important. The next one, 1 per 40 clause, so the comp clause. So for every 40 rooms, you should be getting a comp room. I've actually seen this go down to about 1 per 30 or 1 per 35 recently. Again, based on these new times that we're living in, based on the COVID world, a 1 per 40 at least, if not even a 1 per 35 or 1 per 30 comp clause, I think is something that is very doable and something that you should be asking for on the comp room policy. Okay. Next one, 80% rooms attrition. Okay. There's no more 85. There's no more 90. There's no more daily attrition. If you are signing any contracts with that, I don't want to call you stupid because that's not right. It's not the right thing to do. Okay. You should never be signing for more than 80% attrition. Why? Because we are in a messed up world right now. We cannot go by historical numbers right now. You have to limit your liability as much as possible, especially on the attrition side. Again, in this, I've also seen 70% come out very frequently from hotels right now for new RFPs that I'm working on. So where 80 was the standard, I think the new norm that you can ask for is the 70 to 75% rooms attrition. So that is also something where I would make some adjustments on some of your future RFPs and future concessions that you're looking for. An AV discount. Again, AV is such a huge cost to people right now. And unfortunately, AV costs really haven't gone down that much. I think we've got more discounts available. But one of the things that I truly recommend, and this will kind of come down into the competition when we talk about that a little bit later, is making sure that you get a full AV proposal on pricing before you sign a hotel contract. Because if there's anywhere that pop-up fees are going to come up that you didn't know about or weren't ready for or are more than you were expected, it would be on the AV side. So the best thing you can do is, first off, negotiate that discount with the hotel that you're contracting. Okay, 20-25% should be minimum at this point. Again, I'm seeing 30-35% AV discounts coming out. But the one thing I would also be ready is have your AV schedule ready to send to the hotel ahead of time to get pricing on it, to make sure that they're not trying to gouge you in certain AV areas. So make sure you have that ready. But the AV discount is something that you should be at least getting 20-25% AV discount, if not more, maybe 30-35%. So an F&B banquet discount. Okay, this is another thing that I ask for in all of my RFPs that I send out to hoteliers, is at least a 20-25% banquet F&B discount. Now, a lot of people also try and work on set menus, as far as they have specialty menus that they try and work on. Also, discount coffee, right? Banquet coffee pricing. That's something that I've also worked on with a lot of hotels. You know, maybe you're not really worried about the price of, you know, lunch or dinner or whatever it may be, but the coffee pricing is killing you. So negotiate that coffee price, okay? Those are things individually that you can put into your concession list, and something that I would highly recommend. And the other thing I tell a lot of people too, when you're looking at your concession list, take a look at your previous year's bill or 2 years ago, and look at those fees that really popped up that said, gosh, you know what? I can't believe we paid this much for this, or for this item, or for these suites, or these upgrades, or whatever it may be. So obviously this is a case-by-case basis, but these are recommendations that I would make for you. So the banquet food and beverage discount is definitely something that I would look at and have on your list as an option. Another one is the comp receiving and storage of all of your boxes. Okay, so if you're bringing in 50 people and you got a box or two, or maybe you're bringing in a full crate basically, or a pallet of items for your convention or meeting or whatever it may be, there are costs to that. So again, that is something that I would negotiate within your concession list, is your storage and receiving of your group materials, okay? Whether it's boxes, whether it's pallets, whatever it may be, something I would definitely look at as an additional concession item to take a look at. Another one, airport transfers. Okay, so if you're at a property where you have VIPs or speakers that you need to bring in, or maybe it's just for your staff, asking for airport transfers. Majority of hotels work with some type of airport transfer company to get discounts or get comp round trip transfers from the airport for staff or VIPs. Okay, find out what that number is. Again, I really, in a situation like that, I go by the 1 per 20 rule again. Okay, so if you have 100 rooms on peak, you should ask for 5. That is very standard. It's very fair. And that's why we're kind of talking about negotiating fair hotel contracts. So airport transfers, another very large item to take a look at. Comp or discounted parking, especially if you're in a downtown location, taking a look at least getting some type of comp or discounted, or maybe even some type of day rates if you're having people that are driving in to your meeting. Or if you have people with rental cars, maybe it's your staff coming in. Sometimes you will, and I've worked at hotels too, where the parking isn't a part of the hotel itself. It's managed separately, but a lot of times you can still get some type of discount or comp from the property itself. So take a look at that, see what your usage has been, but comp or discounted parking is another item that I would take a look at. Resort fees, man, do I love paying resort fees. Resort fees, city fees, whatever they want to call them, just get rid of them. It's still amazing. I know there's some court battles going on still to try and get hotels to get rid of resort fees and some of these city fees and things that they're trying to charge. But if you have a group piece of business, again, in a new COVID world, you should not be paying any of those fees, okay? Negotiate it out or negotiate it down. Another option in a situation like that is if you can't negotiate a comp resort fee per se, maybe you make it optional. Okay, so some people want the resort fee because they want their free Wi-Fi, they want their, their free phone calls and things like that. So it's definitely something that, something I would take a look at and try and at least make it optional if you can't get it discounted. So rebates. Now, this is something a lot of people don't know about, and something that I've done for a lot of my clients is having a rebate per room night. Okay, so if you have, for example, if you have a $100 room rate and you have a $10 rebate per room night, so $10 of that $100 will go towards your master account. So let's say you have 100 total room nights. So out of 100 total room nights that you're contracting at a hotel, you're getting $10 for each one of those room nights, which basically equals $1,000 that will go as a credit to your master account. And that is something that I really recommend to planners, especially now. So you don't have to discount registration fees. You don't have to look at, hey, how are we going to pay our bills because we don't have the same amount of attendance? What's another revenue source we can look at right now? You know what it is? It's a rebate. And I would highly recommend a rebate into all of your future RFPs. Okay. And the nice thing is, even if you don't need the rebate, have it in the RFP. And if you need to take it out later, you can take it out later saying, you know what, I know the rate's 109 and we got a $10 rebate. How about we just get rid of the rebate and you give me a $99 rate? Okay, there you go. So basically the rebate is just added on to your rate for your group, but it is a credit that goes to your master account. Okay, so something that I highly recommend to any of those planners or associations or whoever it may be that are looking for another revenue source is throw a rebate in to your group rooms, to your group room rate right now. It's a great way. And whether it's, I can tell you $10 is standard. I've done up to $20 if you need to pay for like convention center space. Let's say you're having space at the center and a rooms only block at a hotel or 2 or 3, whatever it may be. Get the hotels to offer that rebate, 10, 20 bucks, whatever you need to help cover that convention center cost. So you don't have to pay that rental. So definitely something I would recommend is the rebate for an additional revenue source. Okay. Comp group Wi-Fi in guest rooms and meeting space. Again, I think that's become standard for the most part, but again, you should not be paying for Wi-Fi. You should not be paying for Wi-Fi in the meeting space unless you have a large type of Wi-Fi group with computers and things like that and a lot of usage that you would need a special bandwidth for. So that should definitely be something that should be comp for all of your future contracts. And the last one is probably just a comp reception or AM/PM breaks, okay? So this is something that we haven't asked for in the past, but I think it's a great time if you really want to try and get the best deals and find out who wants your business the most. See if you can get a comp reception for your groups, even if you can get a comp coffee break or a PM break, or maybe you get a comp break in your staff office, something like that. Those items are now things that you can ask for and things that are important. So that's kind of an initial list. Once again, if any of you have questions or concessions or other concessions that you asked for, feel free to type it in the comment section here of our Facebook Live event, and we can kind of bring those up as they come in, and I can kind of answer kind of my thoughts on some other concessions that people ask for. Because again, everybody has their own list, but I think it's important to take a look at your list right now and make those adjustments as you need to. So, all right. All right, well, let's get into the second one. The second item is clauses. Okay, so now we're getting into contractual clauses that are important. And right off the bat, let me reiterate the master hotel contract. If you do 5 or more meetings or 5 or more hotel contracts a year, you should have your own master hotel contract. Okay, I book over 100 hotel contracts a year, and I got to tell you, at least 90 of them are on my own client's master hotel contract. Because again, do you want to deal with a Hyatt contract, a Hilton contract, a Marriott contract? They're all different. The clauses are different. The attrition's listed differently. The cancellations are listed differently. The concessions are listed differently. The best thing you can do is negotiate your contract, not the hotel's contract. And people are like, oh, Mark, they won't accept my contract. You know what? Yes, they will. Okay. If they want your business, they will accept your contract. And something that I highly, highly recommend. As I said before, if you're a client of mine, or if you want me to work on your RFPs, I will create a master hotel contract for you for free. I will put it together. I will negotiate it on your behalf and get you the best deals possible. And all I ask is that when you send out your RFPs, that they go through me so that I can source them out for you. Now, I do have clients that want to source their own business, want to do their own things, but they still want a master hotel contract. So if you want me to create one for you separately on the side that you can use, I can also do something like that. There's just a small fee for that. You can contact me directly at mdallman@hpnglobal.com, and we can discuss the pricing of that if you need that negotiated separately. But clauses, the master hotel contract, again, it just makes everything easier. You're negotiating your contract on your terms, and you can make adjustments as necessary. The greatest thing that I've done, especially it's worked out perfectly this year, is that I was able to adjust the force majeure clause this year on all of my clients' contracts to include pandemics, epidemics, things like that. I was able to change the indemnification clause to make sure that hotels and groups couldn't basically sue each other if there were attendees that got sick at the property. I was also able to just make adjustments as needed to any other clause, whether it's concessions, things like that. And it's been fantastic to have that as an option. So definitely something that I recommend. But let's get into clauses. What are some clauses that are important right now? The lowest group rate clause. Okay, is the first one I would recommend, because what we're going to be seeing as groups start coming back to hotels, travelers start coming back to hotels, is hotels are desperate right now to fill their hotel rooms. And with that, lower room rates will be available online. So the one thing you need to do is make sure you're protecting your group and your group rate with the lowest group rate clause. So making sure that that is included in your future negotiations. Sometimes hotels will just allow it on peak night, but I would make sure that if you're contracting any nights that, and again, the lowest group rate, meaning that anything before the cutoff date, okay, anything after the cutoff date, once you've released rooms or after your cutoff date, the hotel can do what they want. But before the cutoff date, they should not be allowing any lower room rates than your group room rate that you have in there. So very important clause, lowest group room rate. The next one is the audit clause. Now, again, if we're getting into hotels where you've got a $10 rebate per room night, every room night that you track for your group is important. Why? Because it's revenue for you and revenue for your master account. So having an audit clause to make sure that the hotel and the group will do an audit, you send them the registration list, they match it towards your in-house list, to make sure that you're getting credit for every room night that was at that hotel, whether the rate was higher or lower, you should be getting credit for those room nights. Also, to make sure that you're just tracking your numbers correctly for your next meeting or your next year's conference, making sure that you have the correct numbers. So very important information to have. So the audit clause, very important. An annual room and meeting space block review. This is another just ridiculously important clause to have in your contracts right now, because basically what this clause does is it allows you to review your meeting space and your room block based on your previous year's history. So if there's a fluctuation of anywhere up to 10%, you can adjust your room block or adjust your meeting space based on your previous year's numbers. And typically what we do is we do that within 60 days of your last event. So you can take a look at it, especially now, like we talked about. The tough thing is that numbers are questionable right now. You don't know where the registration numbers are going to come in. You don't know what people's travel habits are going to be like in, third, fourth quarter, even next year. So having that flexibility and knowing where those numbers are coming in at are vitally important. So being able to adjust your room block and meeting space with this type of clause is a very important addition that I would make sure to have for all your future contracts. Attrition and cancellation based on profit, not total revenue. So we've talked about this a couple times on my Facebook Live events, but the one thing, and I've seen this, and again, I'm telling you, I've canceled or basically lifted and shifted about 50 events this year, and probably 20 of those are contracts that I was not involved in originally. So as I've always stated, if you've got a contract you need me to take a look at, email it over to me. I'll take a look at it, give you some fair, honest hotel consultation on what you should be doing. But some of these contracts that I got, the attrition or the cancellation was based on rooms revenue. It was based on food and beverage numbers. It was based on taxes and service charge. So just when you think that, I don't know, your $50,000 cancellation charge that you had for your program that you needed to cancel suddenly turns into 60 or 70 because of these additional fees or taxes. So the one thing I recommend in your rooms attrition and in your food and beverage cancellation numbers or F&B or cancellation numbers for your food and beverage and room revenue, making sure that those are based on profit, okay? 80% profit for rooms, about 65% profit for food and beverage, okay? But make sure it excludes taxes and excludes service charges, okay? It's amazing how little words like that make a huge difference within these clauses. So when you're taking a look at future contracts, make sure rooms and food and beverage are based on profit, not total revenue, okay? The next one, a 90 or 60-day room block review clause. So when we were talking about attrition, 80% attrition, some hotels are going down to 70. One thing I would also recommend is maybe if you do an 80% attrition, maybe 60 days out or 45 days out, you have a review clause put into your contract that basically says, okay, well, here's where I am now. And I may not make my number. So let me take this 10% attrition right now, 60 days out, 45 days out, 90 days out, whatever that date time frame you want to work with, and then base attrition on that new number, base 80% attrition on that revised number after you get the room block review clause in there. So I think that's a great way to take a look at it. Again, trying to limit your liability, not knowing where the numbers are going to come in, not being able to go off previous year's history, really taking a look at some type of room block review clause, either 45 days out or 60 days out, is something that I would definitely recommend at this point. A mutual indemnification clause. Now, we talked about this a little bit earlier with my master hotel contract that I put together for all my clients, but what we're seeing now is that, first off, we had force majeure and how important that was and how that was worded that got people out of contracts. Now we're getting into the indemnification part of things where people are basically starting to have groups or looking to start consuming at hotels. So again, who's responsible? If your attendee gets sick, are you responsible? Is the hotel responsible? The best thing you can do is have a mutual indemnification clause that basically takes care of both parties. So if for some reason one of your attendees gets one of the housekeepers sick, then you're not going to get in trouble for that, or vice versa. So mutual indemnification clause, definitely something I would take a look at and something that I would look to add into your future documents. Force majeure. I hate force majeure. Damn force majeure. Yeah, it's the one word that I will tell everyone on force majeure that is important is the word inadvisable. Okay. A lot of, and again, a lot of force majeures are based on, hey, wars, government regulations, whatever it may be. But having the word inadvisable So it's inadvisable for your attendees to attend this meeting. It's inadvisable for you to host this meeting at this hotel during this time. That has saved at least half a dozen of my clients in the force majeure clause, just having that one word in there. So something that I would highly recommend. And again, the other thing that I recommend is that you got to add pandemics. You got to add epidemics in there. The other clause or portion of the force majeure that I added into a lot of mine is that even if the group falls into a force majeure clause, but if they still host the meeting, the room rates and the room's attrition and food and beverage minimum numbers will not be counted against the group itself. So basically, if you're still going to show up, they're not going to charge you for attrition or for being short in your food and beverage minimum number. And then you can also negotiate the current room rate at that time. So that's something that I would also really take a look at your force majeure clause, really take a look at the words that are in there and how you can really protect yourself for future groups. So, and the last one is a public health and safety clause. And that basically is something, again, that I've added to all of my contracts that basically says that the hotel is going to follow all public and health safety guidelines. Okay. Hey, it's great that they have, Marriott's rolled out this huge thing, Hyatt's thrown out this thing, but if the hotel doesn't follow through and doesn't have the employees or the operational standards in place for public and health safety, it does no good. So making sure that you have that information from the hotel ahead of time on what are their public health and safety guidelines, what are their sanitation guidelines. Putting that clause in your contract allows you to get out of your contract with no cancellation fees if the hotel is not following the standard public health and safety guidelines at that time. So again, something I would definitely take a look at. So, all right. So there we go. So we're through our second one, clauses. And once again, if you have questions, comments, concerns about concessions or contractual clauses, please type them in the comment section and they'll pop up on the screen here and we'll take a look at them and answer them as they come in. So hopefully you've been able to kind of see a list of concessions that I would recommend for you so far. The clauses, and again, the master hotel contract. I can't slap you around enough to say, have your own contract, okay? It's vital, it's important, it makes things so much easier, it makes your negotiations easier. It makes adjusting clauses easier. You're adding clauses, deleting clauses, so much easier. So again, you need help on that, let me know, very important. So, all right, the last one, competition, okay? The one thing that I'm seeing in this new COVID world and how we're negotiating fair hotel contracts is that there are still some hotels that are still stuck in 2019 and still think that they can get these big old fat rates and think that they can get, 90% attrition and won't offer staff rooms and won't offer suite upgrades and things like that because they never did that before. And that's okay. It's not their fault. Some of these salespeople that you're dealing with have never gone through a recession. They've never seen times like these. Again, I like to reiterate to a lot of my hotel salespeople, this is the worst hotel recession we have ever seen, okay? There's probably 20 or 30% of the hotels in the entire country, they're going to shut down. They're going to be empty buildings. So I tell people all the time, the easier you make it to book your hotel, the more business you will get. The harder you make it to book your hotel and negotiate hotel contracts, the worse time you'll have booking more business. So the best thing you can do is be fair and be honest and talk to people. And we've talked about this at length, is that RFPs are more emotional. I was actually having a great conversation with Alexa Shallot, who was on my last Facebook Live when we were talking about coming back from furlough. We were having a discussion afterwards about if you're sending out a response on an RFP, what a better way to send things out than how many jobs it'll create at your property. Because there's a lot of hotels that they don't have all their staff back and they don't even have their entire hotel open. But if you're going to bring a 200 or 500 room night, program to a hotel, that's going to create a huge amount of jobs. So putting that into your proposals, so us as planners can say, hey, you know what? Wow, if I bring this to this property, I'm going to be able to give 25 people jobs at that hotel. And that makes an impact. You want to make an impact, start talking in that language. Start being personal with people. Start being emotionally invested with your RFPs and with your planners. I can't stress it enough to my hotel sales friends out there. Don't date rates and spaces stuff anymore. You got to talk to people. You got to see what they need. You got to see what's important to them. Because again, a lot of these planners, this is their flock. It's their mama bear mentality when they're booking things right now, is they want to make sure their people are safe. They want to make sure that you have the right amount of meeting space. They want to make sure that you're going to take care of them and not give them, the corporate guidelines on every single thing. Be a friend. Be honest with people. It'll go a long ways for you. So, but competition, first off, check multiple hotels. If you're not doing that, you're losing out, because right now there are so many deals to be had out there. So if you typically go to the same hotel and you've gone there every year, hey, which is great, good for you. They take care of you, things like that. But maybe there's a hotel a block away that'll give you $50 off your rate, give you no attrition, give you no cancellation to bring your program there in January. But you don't know unless you check, okay? That's something that I do. If you want me to check the availability for you in different cities, different hotels, I search every hotel in every city around the world. You need help with that, I highly recommend it. Don't short yourself in the hotels in the cities that you're considering, because there are a lot of great hotels, a lot of great hotel salespeople that get it and are offering fantastic deals right now. Don't accept the deal that you got in 2019 or 2018. You should be doing much, much better. Multi-year deals. That's another thing when you're talking about competition, and maybe you do have a great hotel. All right, maybe you have a fantastic salesperson and they're on top of everything. They've got the safety guidelines all set, sanitation guidelines, they're discounting your rate. Sign a multi-year deal with them. Okay, so if you sign multiple years, you can get better concessions on audiovisual, better concessions on banquet pricing, better concessions on suites, staff rooms, whatever it may be. That is a great time for you to really look at increasing your concession list if you're signing a multi-year deal with a property that you trust and that your attendees like going to. So a multi-year deal is definitely another thing that I would consider right now based on all the great deals that are out there. A short list of hotels. This is the next thing. A lot of people don't realize, because even sometimes I'll send, my list of hotels that are available to planners, whatever it may be in different cities. And they'll be like, okay, I want this hotel right here. And I'll be like, well, what I would recommend is I would recommend shortlisting 2 or 3 hotels. So let's say you're searching Chicago for a meeting and you've got 15 or 20 hotels available. My suggestion to planners is shortlist 2 or 3 properties, okay? 2 or 3 of them that look good on there, whether you want the recommendations from me or whether you want to make the recommendations yourself. Pick 2 or 3, and then what I'll do, or what I recommend to planners, is go back to those 2 or 3 hotels and say, okay, hey, Marriott, Hyatt, Hilton, your hotel's been shortlisted. Here's the rate you gave us. Please offer us your best group rates, your best concessions, and your best food and beverage minimum, whatever it may be, and send me a full proposal with the meeting space. Because again, I tell people nothing breeds negotiation better than competition. You think the Marriott wants to lose business to the Hyatt? You think the Hyatt wants to lose business to the Hilton? All those hotels within a certain city, they know what their comp set is. They know who they compete against. So if you give them a second chance to really put their best foot forward and really say, hey, okay, well, we've been shortlisted, so this is good. So now that hotel salesperson has the ammunition to go back to their revenue manager or director of sales, whoever it may be, and say, okay, hey, we've been shortlisted. How much better can we do? What better room rate can we offer? How many more concessions can we give them? Something I definitely and highly recommend to you is shortlisting your hotels before you end up choosing a final property. Sanitation guidelines, and we talked about this a little bit, but I think the one thing we're going to see now as groups start to actualize into some of these properties, the thing I would recommend is getting pictures, videos, referrals from groups that have been in that hotel during this time frame or before your group arrives. So you can see, hey, how was the experience? Did you feel safe? How did your attendees feel when they checked in? How are the guest rooms? How's the meeting space? Was it socially distant? How did your CSM or convention service manager help you during the planning process? Those things are going to be vital as we move forward so that planners can really feel comfortable with booking your property. So as you start to shortlist different properties, ask them for some of that information. Say, hey, when was your last group that you had in the property? And be like, oh, well, is this group? Well, great. Do you have some pictures? Can you show me what one of your breaks look like? What your coffee break look like? What their general session look like? So again, that kind of information I think is vital, something that you should definitely put on your list as far as the competition of things before choosing a final location. And we talked about this one a little bit earlier, was the full audiovisual proposal ahead of time, okay? Nowhere is pricing and fees and surcharges and everything just kind of surprise planners more than audiovisual, okay? Why? Because we're not AV techs. We don't know. Sometimes you're getting into a union property. You've got extra pricing for that. So the one thing I would recommend is make sure you have your audiovisual proposal, RFP, whatever you want to call it. Make sure you have that ready to go to the hotel's audiovisual department, whether it's PSAV, whoever it may be. So you can send that to them ahead of time. Say, hey, can you give me some pricing on this event? And here's where our audiovisual was last year. And really kind of see where those numbers come in. So again, competition. Nothing breeds negotiation better than competition. Okay, so check multiple hotels, sign multi-year deals, shortlist your hotels, make sure the hotels have some type of pictures or videos on previous sanitation guidelines or events on breaks, general sessions, whatever it may be, and then full AV pricing. Those are definitely some things I would recommend. So anyway, so I hope all of you got some great information out of that. Hopefully it was helpful. Again, I've been in the business my whole life. I worked in hotels for 20 years. I've been with HPN Global now for 20 years. I negotiate over 100 hotel contracts a year. Actually, I do a separate speaking engagement, like I said, for about 40 to 50 planners every year on how to negotiate fair hotel contracts. Contracts are my life. I know a lot of people hate contracts. A lot of people are like, I hate negotiating hotel contracts. I'm like, well, that's the one thing that I'm really good at. So if you need help in that area, please let me know. I'm here to help. All of my services are fast, free, and honest. But as I said before, if you have questions or comments, please put them in the comments section of our Facebook Live event, and I'll be more than happy to answer anything that comes up. So let's see if we have any questions that have come in. Brian, we've got anything that has been popping in at all that we can review? Okay. All right. Well, again, let me do one quick recap for everybody before I sign off here. So the 3 C's, concessions, your clauses, and your competition. Very important. For concessions, remember the 1 per 20 rule, probably a 1 per 40 or 1 per 35 comp clause, 80% attrition or lower, probably 70, including probably like a 10% review clause that you can in there. No daily attrition. Don't sign for anything over 80. The numbers are too spooky right now to go anywhere lower than that. 25% AV discount, food and beverage discounts, comp receiving and storage of your group boxes, comp airport transfers, discounted parking, comp or discounted parking, comp resort fees or city fees. Again, get rid of those, or at least make them optional for your attendees. Comp group Wi-Fi and guest rooms meeting space should be standard now, but please do not pay for that. And trying to get a comp reception, whether it's an AM break, a PM break, a reception, maybe it's food in your staff office, whatever it may be. Those are some things I would highly recommend on the concession side. For the contractual clauses, again, master hotel contract, lowest group rate clause, an audit clause, an annual guest room and meeting space review clause, attrition and cancellation based on profit, not based on total revenue, and excluding taxes and excluding service fees. A 90 or 60-day room block review clause. We talked about that also. Maybe have the 80% attrition clause, rooms attrition, but maybe 10% of that or 10% more of that, you can take 90 days out, 60 days out, whatever it may be. Mutual indemnification clause, a rebook clause. Very, very important to have a rebook clause in there. Force majeure and inadvisable. Very important word to have in your force majeure clause. Public health and safety clause. Again, great information to have in there, making sure that the hotel is responsible for having that clause in there. And then we kind of went over the competition stuff already. So anyway, so I hope you got some great information out of that. I hope it was helpful. Again, I am here to help at any time. You can find out more information from me on meetingplannersbestfriend.com. I will actually be doing some separate speaking engagements for hotels and planners, most likely in the DC area later this probably fourth quarter, where I'll be doing on-site hotel contract training. So look for that information. You can check my website out for that in the future. And if there's anything else, any other questions that come up, please feel free to just shoot me an email at mdallman@hpnglobal.com. Be more than happy to help out any of you. So stay safe, take care of each other, and everybody have a great week. Thanks a lot.
This is where the show is. This is the deals we need to get done. If you have an RFP, send it to me. We're getting near the end of the year. Let me help you get the best rates, best concessions. My services are fast, free, and honest. Send me your RFP. Let's get it done.
HPN Global, it completely changed my world.
Bill calls them rock stars, right? So we are looking for rock stars.
You've got to get out there and pound the pavement and make the calls.
It works to all of our advantage. It's win-win-win.